3, 2, 1, and we are. Hi there. I'm the Sports Trader. How are you? Thanks for watching another edition of our Sports Trader web show. My name is John Todora. For those of you who don't know it, they call me the Sports Trader because I trade sports just like you trade stocks. A few years ago, I sold all my brick and mortar businesses, and I have been living, traveling across the world, simply trading sports. That's all I do anymore. It's actually a fairly lucrative business for myself. I no longer have to worry about doing anything except logging in, getting my lines, and placing the trades that I want to on sports trading. If you want to learn more about sports trading, I'll do episodes on that and teach you guys about that stuff as we go along. But this podcast today is about a lot of cool stuff, including some personal stuff. And then we're going to do an NFL response to what's going on with all the things going on outside. Then we're going to talk about canceling Drew Brees, and then we're going to wrap it up talking about all the incredible drama that is going on in UFC that is not getting enough attention from the mainstream sports media because they're so entrenched in what's going on outside. We're going to touch on all of that today in this show. Now, before we go any further, I want to give you guys some personal updates of what's going on. This may come in handy for those of you that are thinking about traveling or doing something where you can move around a little bit. For those of you who don't know it, I live half the time of the year in Thailand. So I live half the time of the year in Thailand. I spend a couple months out of the year in the Philippines. I travel a little bit, and then I'm back in America maybe 2 months out of the year just to hang out there. I have homes I have homes in America and in Thailand. And I just rent a place when I'm in the Philippines. I am building a condo there right now that I will hopefully, with everything going on, will hopefully be done in the next 3 to 4 months. But anyway, so I'm traveling right now, and I had booked a trip home to come back to America in, I want to say, in May. And I had to cancel, obviously, because when I had booked my trip, the pandemic had just kind of boom, hit everybody, and everybody decided to shut down the world, and everything was going to change. So I had to cancel my trip. I literally had to fight with Expedia. I had a $4,800 first-class round-trip ticket, which was a great deal for me, and I had to fight with them for, I don't even know how long. Actually, I take it back. I didn't fight with Expedia. It was almost impossible to get them on the phone. And then once I did, it was almost impossible to get them to call me back, and then I had to call them again. So it wasn't a fight. It was just impossible to actually get a hold of somebody to fix the problem that I had in front of me. So Expedia ended up fixing the problem, but not without a lot of effort on my part. So neither here nor there, I got my money back and decided I'm going to fly back whenever this is all calmed down. Now, summertime is coming up. Obviously, if you've paid attention to anything the government has told us, if you believe anything they've told us, the government of the United States, the CDC, said that when the temperature is 75 degrees or higher and there's more sunlight outside, which of course is in the summertime, the UV effect should slow down the virus. In the area of Pittsburgh that I am originally from, where I'll be going to visit some family, where I'll spend probably the majority of my time on this next trip home, actually. I'll spend some time in Miami in my home, but I'll probably spend a lot of time with my mom because I got to be honest, my mother's in her 70s. A lot of this stuff did scare me a little bit. I was a little frightened of what was going on. I do worry about her personal safety and her health. So I think the best thing in the world for me is to go home now and to visit and to spend some time with her and my sister and my nephew. God forbid something were to happen to one of them or to me and we didn't get a chance to spend some time together. I would feel bad. So the opportunity is there for me. I do live a life where I can kind of travel wherever I want to. So I think it's time to go home and have that visit. So what I did was I finally looked online to book a ticket. And let me tell you, I was shocked that there even were tickets, but there weren't a lot of them, especially international. So I'm flying out of Bangkok, and my flight, which is normally I would be able to get myself a 24-hour flight, 23, 24 hours, really depending. The most 25, 26, I think is the longest I've ever flown. I've seen longer flights. I don't take them because you could save money, but I'd rather the convenience of going faster. So the shortest flight I'm able to find now that I am actually on is 38 hours. So now, of course, I'm not flying the entire time. I'll be in the air for a while, and then I'll be landing. Oh, my headphone's out. And then I'll be landing I want to say I land in Frankfurt, and then I'll be in Frankfurt for I believe 8 hours. Then I'll be in Jersey for 7 hours. It's just these huge, enormous layovers that are going to happen along the way. I'm not super happy about it, but it is what it is. It's 38 hours. It'll literally be my longest trip that I've ever taken in my entire life, from one destination to the other, and that's how much I love my family. There it is right there in a nutshell. So I'll be home. I'm going to stay home in the area for a couple months, maybe hang out a little bit. I just want to see how everything's going with the pandemic. I have some I have some reservations. I'm not going to lie. It's hard to tell if everything was as bad as it ever was, as what they were telling us. But I guess with all the protests outside now and so many people in such enclosed spaces, even though it is outside, people are really close to each other. I imagine that we will see a rise in infections. So if we don't, that's a great thing. And that means that a lot of what we were told, a lot of what they thought was not true, and that we should be able to ride out with hopefully be a somewhat safe summer, or at least a much, much lower infection rate throughout the summer so that people can enjoy themselves a little bit. And so that hopefully we can get some sports back. Now that is a huge part of what we do here and what I like to do and what we like to talk about. So, of course, if you want to learn more about what it is I do, let me do a quick plug here and let you know that there is something called Sports Trading Systems, and that is our website and where we go and we teach you how to do exactly what it is we do, which is called sports trading. We have figured out a method of using the sports to create separate markets inside the sports that we trade, just like people trade the stock market. At least how the good traders do, how somebody like Warren Buffett does and guys like that. They use historical back-tested data, and that's what we do. We go back 10, 15 years to find a little trends that turn into patterns inside of the lines. So it's not really about like what Tom Brady does in a certain circumstance or what this coach does in a certain circumstance. It's really more about finding patterns inside the lines and taking advantage of those patterns inside the sports lines to take advantage of the bookmakers so that we can make money. And if you want to learn more, you can go to the website, check it out. I have a newsletter there you can sign up for. The newsletter is free. I send you free content all the time. Also on the site, there's a ton of content produced by me and a bunch of guys that have worked for me in what we call the ScoreMetrics Lab. You can go there and you can learn a lot of stuff about different trends, different patterns that are going on now or that have gone in the past. And it's really, really great information in there. It'll really teach you a lot so you can start heading in the right path. And hopefully you can become a sports trader one day as well. Now, we do have a lot of things that we do want to talk about today. Now, one of the things that I want to talk about is I want to talk about some of the things that are happening in the world. Now, I'm not a big believer in the fact that sports and culture should mesh that much. I really don't like when ESPN goes on and on about politics, or, I don't want to hear this guy's opinion of Trump or how this guy likes Trump or this guy doesn't like Trump. I don't want to hear all that when I'm watching sports. It's an escapism. But I also understand, I'm also not naive enough to not understand the fact that there's nothing going on right now. So there are no sports. So what we can do is we can talk about what's in front of us. And for me, I'd like to talk about not necessarily the protests, which I'm totally fine with. I mean, I'm in favor of everybody having the same rights. Anybody that knew me, that knows me, that has been around me, knows that not only have I worked with a lot of different cultures of people, which I'm super lucky about. I moved to Miami when I was young and was exposed to so many different people that I probably wouldn't have been from where I originally came from. But my circle of friends is very, very, very cultural, extremely cultural. My best friend is black. My girlfriend is Asian. I've lived with a Brazilian girl. I've lived with a African American girl. I mean, I've just been. I think I lived with a Brazilian girl at one point, which is just terrible. But so I've really kind of experienced a lot of different things in my life, and I'm super lucky about it. And if you ever met somebody that was probably more socially liberal than me, I'd like to meet that guy because he'd probably be pretty fun to hang out with. But I'm about as socially liberal as it comes. So, but while I get that disclaimer out of the way, I will say that it's a shame that I have to make that disclaimer. It truly is. It truly is that before you have a conversation like this, and before you talk about a topic like this, you have to explain to somebody who you are, because if you don't, and even though I have done that, there is a very good chance that somebody will call me a racist before this is over. So somebody very well could be in the comment section right now writing racist. It's very possible. It may have just happened now because I suggested it, which would be funny actually, but please don't do that. By the way, if you are interacting with this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment. That would be cool. But here's the thing. The NFL recently has been pushed into a position where they're going to have to make a choice about the anthem again and about whether or not they're going to allow people to protest and kneel for the anthem for racial injustice. And I'd like to say this, and this is going to be something that I think should have been said 3 years ago. And I was saying it privately, and I was saying it to friends, and I was saying it when I was going to meetings and stuff like that. I was telling people that kneeling was the absolute worst thing possible. Kneeling was the worst thing that ever happened to racial injustice. Now, let me tell you why. Kneeling was the worst thing to ever happen to racial injustice because it took the conversation away from racial injustice and turns it into the flag. That's reason number one. That was reason number one. You have a topic that you want to discuss. You have a topic that you want to talk about, and you are now taking the topic away. You are changing the topic because you have decided you no longer want to talk about that topic. You want to talk about the flag. You've changed your own topic. You had people listening. People were paying attention. You have a platform, and you destroyed it by doing an extremely divisive act. Now, when you started the act, you had no idea it was divisive. Of course, you didn't do it to be divisive. But once you found out that it was divisive, you didn't change. You didn't stop. Now, whether you want to blame that on Colin Kaepernick, which I think he takes a tremendous amount of the blame, because I truly believe his intentions were good to start. I believe his intentions were good to start. I think it snowballed and it got worse for him. So the more attention he got, the more he thought, oh, every week I need to top this. I need to do something else. I need to get more players involved. I need to wear socks with pigs on them. It just became such a divisive thing of like, listen, nobody that I know at least, nobody that I know and nobody that I've actually ever heard has ever said, I want racial inequality. I think that somebody with brown, black, orange, yellow, blue skin should be less than me. I've never heard somebody actually say that out loud. Now, I've also never been to a Klan meeting. But I'm sure if you went to those, it's a little different. But it also is my understanding that white supremacists and Ku Klux Klan are so minuscule, according to the FBI, that they barely exist in this country. So the majority of us truly believe that everybody should be equal. So you are taking something that we could all agree on, and you are putting a line down the middle of it and saying that you need to choose to be on this side. And if you don't, if you give up your belief that you shouldn't kneel, sit, or disrespect the flag at any point, then you are a racist and you cannot be part of this movement. So those people who were pushed off to the side because they didn't do the cause the way you wanted them to, didn't want to be in your cause. They didn't want to be in your club. Why would they want to be in your club? How is that so hard for everyone to understand? If you want people to join you, you have to do something that unites them, that brings them to you. The same people that are standing there now telling you, me, and anybody else that will listen, that are standing there saying to people, hey, you know what? If you don't do this, if you don't do this act, if you're not okay with people kneeling, then you're part of the problem. That's not a conversation. That is you demanding something. You're demanding. What's funny is you're demanding equality, which is fine. You should have equality. We should all be equal, but you're demanding equality, and at the exact same time you're demanding equality, at the very same time that you're demanding equality, you're not giving the people that you're talking to the same equal right to believe in what they choose to believe in or what they have to believe in. Sometimes these aren't even choices. As a kid, I remember going to school, and in school, they make you stand for the national anthem. You have to take your hat off for the national anthem. You can't sit down for the national anthem. You go to a ball game. If you're sitting down, people are looking at you and shaming you because you're sitting down. You shouldn't be sitting for the national anthem. There was a Beyonce and her husband Jay-Z needed to make a statement at the last Super Bowl because people thought they were sitting for the national anthem. So they had to come out and say, "Oh, we would never do that." So you would never sit, but you would kneel? I'm confused. Everybody's confused. So if anybody asked me, and believe me, no one did. No one asked me at all. But if somebody asked me and said to me, hey, what would you do? Well, the very first thing I would say was get rid of the knee. And I would tell people, listen, we heard you. We heard you say that this is something that upsets you. And we have decided as a collective that we are not going to do the knee. We're not going to kneel. And instead, we're going to do this other thing. And we invite you, the same people who were upset about the knee, to join us week 1 of the NFL in doing this thing that we're going to do. It won't be kneeling because that's divisive. It'll be this brand new thing that brings everyone together for the same idea, and it makes a statement that everyone can get behind, even the NFL. Because guys, here's the other factor that no one's talking about. The NFL makes money. Like, that's their job. Their primary reason for existence is to make money. That is it. They're not there to make their employees happy. They're really not even there to make their fans happy. They're there to make the advertisers happy. And hopefully they can sell some tickets to get enough people to fulfill the stadium. But, you look at the Jets. The Jets haven't made their fans happy in 25 years, and they're still selling tickets. So at the end of the day, that was a Jet joke. Sorry. Anyway, so my point is the NFL is not obligated to do any of that. The NFL is obligated as a company, as a business, a fiduciary responsibility to the people that own the businesses inside their umbrella, the team owners, to make them the most amount of money possible. When you do a divisive act like kneeling, you get people that want to, not because we're in this whole cancel culture. You get people that want to boycott advertisers. You get people that want to like stop buying certain products because this guy advertised on a station that kneeled, or people stop watching, and then the ratings go down, and then Fox and CBS or whoever owns the rights this year, they start complaining because they promised their advertisers X amount of rating points when they sold them the advertising, and now they're in a trouble because, you promised me this many people were going to see my commercial, and only this many people saw my commercial because the ratings were down. It's a trickle-down effect that affects everybody. Just find something else, guys. Find something else. Trust me, it'll be in your best benefit to find something else. Now, before I go into the next topic, I feel the need to again remind everybody that, I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. I'm for the equality. Racial equality is important to me. I have family members that are African American. My best friend is he's like my brother. He's a black man. I would do anything for him. He is my equal. He is my better in some things. He's a hell of a singer. To me, we're the same person. And anybody like him, the same. So I always feel the need to kind of throw that out there first. I don't know why we're so defensive about that. I shouldn't have to defend the fact that I'm not a racist when I've done nothing in my life that even resembles that. But I am going to say something right now that somebody is probably going to, again, leave a comment below and tell me that I'm a racist. I think that what's happened to Drew Brees is a shame. I think what's happened to Drew Brees is a complete and total shame. I mean, a total shame, a complete shame. And let me, before we go into that tweet, let me tell you what I'm talking about. Let me explain to you exactly what it is I'm talking about. Drew Brees was asked a couple days ago, and I have a strangest feeling that may have been an old interview, but he was asked a few days ago, would he now kneel for the anthem? And Drew Brees replied by saying, I wouldn't kneel for the anthem because my grandfather had died in World War II, or some story like this. I may have gotten the story wrong, but whatever. My grandfather died, and when my grandfather passed away, I feel like it's very disrespectful to the soldiers, and I would not want to do that to the soldiers. Now, let's leave those comments in a bubble by themselves. If you leave those comments in a bubble by themselves, in the time we're in right now, it almost seems like, maybe you could have just not said anything right now. If that was truly your belief, maybe you could have skirted around it just to not cause any controversy right now. In a bubble, I would agree with that. But let's take the bubble off. Let's pop the bubble, and let's look at who Drew Brees is. Drew Brees, over the last 4 or 5 years, has raised, I want to say it's 5 years. I'm sorry, I knew this before and I forgot. Let's just say it's 5 years. Let's say it's 10 years. Over the last 10 years, Drew Brees has raised $30 million for local communities. This last year, he gave $5 million out of his own pocket to help local communities be able to deal with the effects of coronavirus. When he first got to New Orleans, it was right after Katrina, and he and his wife worked at Food Lines and donated their own money and their own time to help the local community of New Orleans. Now, I keep saying the words local community. The local community of New Orleans is predominantly minority. So this is not a man. And also, mind you, Drew Brees has been in the NFL for 17 or 18 years. Obviously, we have never heard one peep about the fact that he's a bad teammate to anybody of any color, race, or creed. So now that the bubble is off and we know who Drew Brees is as a person, who the NFL Man of the Year one year, now that we know who Drew Brees is as a person, is Drew Brees allowed to have his own opinion? Are any of us anymore? And so I can be really clear here. I actually don't even care if you kneel or don't kneel for the flag. It's not my gig. It's not my thing. It's not one of those things I'm going to die on the hill for. Maybe you should stand. You know, I was always raised that we should stand for the national anthem. But if you don't want to, okay, that's your choice. I'm a big believer in personal choice. You do what makes you happy. As long as you're not hurting anybody, as long as your intentions, as long as your actions are not set forth to hurt anybody, do what you do. If they're not hateful actions, do what you do. I don't care. It's up to you. Believe in what you want to believe. Marry who you want to marry. Have sex with who you want to have sex with. I don't care. Vote for who you want to vote for. I don't cancel people out of my life because they do something that I disagree with. I actually seek those people out so that I can have a conversation with them. I want to understand what it is their life is like. That's me. That's just who I am. I'm a curious person. So Drew Brees came out and said that he didn't think it was right. The players lost their minds. This became an instant headline for everybody in sports talk. ESPN stopped putting out funny memes and funny videos and instead started to put out the Drew Brees thing, and then responses to Drew Brees and what this guy said about Drew Brees and what this guy said about Drew Brees. And you know what? Drew Brees had to issue an apology video. An apology video that literally looked like he was a prisoner. It looked like a prisoner of war saying, "Yeah, please come and help me. I'm very sorry for what I did." You expressed your opinion about something you believed in. You owe no one an apology. This cause for racial inequality does not own the national anthem. You can't just come on to something that's been around forever with the tradition of standing and just come along and say, "Nah, that's ours now. And if you don't do it our way, you're the problem." So now there are articles coming out where people are saying, like this tweet right here, Saints quarterback Drew Brees is reportedly stated to become an NFL analyst with NBC when he retires. You got to wonder if he or the network will want that now. So now there's going to be public pressure on his future employer to make sure that he doesn't get the job. This could be you, by the way. This could happen to you. So you know. I bring this up all the time when I say, that might not be the politician that you like, but those things that are happening to him or her could be you. This NFL player who you may or may not like. If they can do this to him, if they can take away his job, his future job, could be you. Now, granted, Drew Brees certainly doesn't need the money like most of you do. Drew Brees is worth $100 million. Drew Brees gave away $5 million a few weeks ago. Like it was like, honey, you want to give away $5 million? We don't want to give 5, 10. We don't want to give. We have a lot of money. Let's give 5. What the hell? Let's just give $5 million away. Now, I still think that Drew Brees deserves the right to be able to try to get a job when he leaves the NFL. I still believe that I was absolutely shocked that some people were actually saying, well, is Drew Brees even going to be on the team this year? What in the hell are you people talking about? What in the hell is what's going on in this world? Comply or be canceled. That's what's going on. Comply or be canceled. Well, I'll tell you something about me. You can't cancel me. You could try, but you sure as hell can't cancel me. And they shouldn't be able to cancel you either. You can believe in whatever you want to. If you believe that you should kneel for the anthem, go ahead. But if it pisses off everybody and you're trying to make a point, which is to bring people together, I would suggest you don't do it. And I would also suggest that the guy on Twitter who I saw tell somebody the other day, Brees should stop doing this because it's already been proven that he's wrong. What are you talking about? What is it? What's been proven? Nothing has changed here. Nothing about what just happened to George Floyd changed the way people felt about the people kneeling for the flag for the last 3 years. I'm sorry. Absolutely nothing changed the way those people feel. So you have all those people that are allies, or you can make them into enemies, and that's up to you. But either way, to me, you don't get to cancel Drew Brees. You don't get to cancel me. They don't get to cancel you. No one gets canceled because they don't want to follow along with what you say. And that does not mean that I don't support racial inequality. It doesn't. Or, sorry, it doesn't mean that I don't support racial equality. It doesn't. You can't conflate the two things. You can have my vote, but you can't own me the rest of the way. All right? Fine. Get a little passionate about that one. Sorry. So there's not a lot of sports going on, but I did have a great time the other day watching UFC, and what some great fights they're putting on. These guys are really, really doing a great job during the pandemic. If you don't know about it, Dana White, who is the prime minister of the UFC, whatever. That's a cool name for him. Anyway, Dana White is the big head honcho there, and Dana White has actually just purchased something for the UFC that he's calling Fight Island. And this is going to be an island where they're going to go and put on all their fights, which is actually really cool. I don't know how long they're going to be using this island, but my understanding is they'll probably use it a lot. I'm guessing they're building like some type of TV facility there where they'll be able to go, and I'm assuming it's going to be off the coast so that it won't be fundamentally required to follow any U.S. guidelines. I'm assuming. Right now, every time they put on a fight, they have to deal with a lot. So I'm assuming that once they do this, and I'm also assuming that if they do this, this will cut down a lot of costs. So everyone will live on the island. They'll have the doctors come in on the island. I'm assuming this is how this will happen. These are total assumptions on my part. I really have no idea for sure that this is how this is going to work. These are just my assumptions. I will say this. The UFC's house is on fire right now. And I absolutely love the way Dana White is handling it. I really do. If you watch the recent post-fight interview with Dana White, he's out there, he's talking about the fights, and they're asking him about, well, let me catch you up first, if you don't know what's going on. So John Jones, who is the light heavyweight champion of the world, and probably the greatest UFC fighter of all time, recently got upset about the amount of money that he is making and the amount of money that he was trying to put together when he was trying to put together a super fight to fight whose name I just forgot, the heavyweight champion. So he was going to go up in weight. He wanted more money for the fight, and Dana White said, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't think you're going to draw. I don't think it's going to be a big draw. I don't think you're going to make a ton of money. So no, you can't have more money. And right now there is no live gate, so we're making less money than we would have made normally. And by the time this fight comes out, we're not sure if there'll be a live gate. There'll be other sports going on. We won't own the conversation for sports, so pay-per-view numbers may go down by then. We don't know what's going to happen, so I can't give anybody a raise in money right now. A completely reasonable thing to say for Dana White. Now, Dana White and the UFC have put themselves in a bad situation here. They created this because they underpay their fighters. They truly do. When you look at boxing, when you look at even the WWE, you look at some of these other programs that are on that make their money, the majority of their money through pay-per-view, they are sharing more money with their fighters than Dana White is. And the UFC is an incredibly profitable company. Incredibly profitable. So the fighters whose careers are short go out there, risk their lives basically to fight, and don't get paid what they think is enough money. This is a problem going forward. I don't think it's a problem right now because Dana White came out and handled this in a great way. To me, this was the best way to handle it. Currently, John Jones is upset about money. Jorge Masvidal is upset about money. And Conor McGregor comes out of nowhere and says, I'm going to retire. And the word automatically is, that must be about money. So what I think happened is they're all trying to leverage together and say, hey, if none of us will fight, if all the big names pull out, Dana will have to pay. He'll have to pay more. And Dana White just said, I'm not doing it. You're all under contract. You all just signed new contracts. Honor your contracts or piss off. And right now he holds all the cards. You're under contract. So all these guys just signed contracts. I guess Masvidal just signed a contract 3 months ago. Jones just signed one last year. McGregor's under contract for like 3 more fights. So none of them have any negotiation power at all. But they're all trying to pull some type of negotiating power thing with Dana White. And I don't think it's going to work at all, kids. I don't think it's going to work at all. Now, if you guys have a different idea of what you think is going to happen with the UFC, leave your comments below. I'd love to hear them. But for me, I feel like Dana White came out and as an employer, and I've been an employer. And I've been an employer when my staff tried to do a takeover as well. When my staff got together and came to me, well, we're not going to do X, Y, or Z until you give us this one thing we're asking for. And I did the same thing. Piss off. I'll replace all of you. So you can all leave. Now, the difference was I didn't have anybody under contract, but I created an environment where my employees made a really good living. So to ask me for more than they were already getting, I felt was unreasonable. I also felt that it put me in a perfect position to be able to say, piss off, because where are you going to make more money? Like, how are you going to make more money? How are you all going to leave and all go find jobs to make more money? One or two of you might, but you're not all going to leave here and find better jobs, because a lot of you make a lot of really good money here. So I think this is going to be a problem for Dana White in the future. I think what's going to happen is guys are going to be a little more cautious when they sign their fights. Masvidal just signed a 7-fight deal. I think guys are going to go and say, I want to do a 3-fight deal. I want to do a 2-fight deal. I want to do a 3-fight deal. And then I think you're going to see somebody look at this and say, there's an opening here. I think I've shared this before, but Warren Buffett, who's probably the most popular, most well-known investor in the world, has this great saying that I love to use, and it basically is something like this. It's if you want to invest in a business, if you want to create a business, if you want to put any type of your thought, if any type of your capital as far as your cash goes into a business, you want to do it in a business that has a moat around it. And what that basically means is that if you don't know what a moat is, a moat's like they dig a hole around a castle and they fill it with water. That's a moat. And what that basically means is you want to be able to open up a business that has such a barrier of entry around you, whether it costs too much to get in, or you can't get the fighters, or whatever the barrier of entry is. You want to be able to have such a huge barrier of entry that real competition can't possibly get in and hurt you. Most major sports companies have that barrier of entry. UFC does not. In my opinion, UFC does not have a barrier of entry that is equal or on the same level as some of these other companies. NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, no one's going to come in and mess with them. The UFC is vulnerable. Now, they have a huge market share, but if another company were to come in, start to create their own really, really good fighters, be able to take a few of the UFC fighters as they get out of their contracts, a John Jones, a Conor McGregor, the UFC could be in tremendous trouble. The UFC could be in big, big trouble, especially if this other promotion was willing to pay more. So because Dana White has left himself vulnerable without the moat around his business, I think the future of the UFC could be in question. Now, when I say future, I don't mean right now. Nothing's going to change right now because we're in the middle of a pandemic, and there are no live gates, and that's what's helping them. But because this has been exposed, people now know how to get across the moat, and it could end very, very badly for Dana White and the UFC. Well, that's it for today's podcast. I'm so glad you guys listened. I'm so glad you guys watched. If you like anything that you saw today, please don't be afraid to leave a comment below. Click like button, stuff like that. Hopefully, I've engaged your lives and made it a little bit better for today. Along the way, I do invite you guys to watch the show again throughout the week. I'm going to do an NBA update a little bit later on this week as I get more information. And hopefully I can do a Major League Baseball update as well to keep you guys abreast as what's going on there, because God knows we all need to have more sports so we have more to talk about. All right, guys, everybody stay safe out there. Don't forget to wear your masks. Stay socially distant away from each other. If you're out protesting, just try to stay away from everybody out of the middle and stay out of the middle of all the people that are doing all the bad stuff. And I'll see you guys next time around. Thanks.